So we need to sort of encapsulate Vayetze and the portion of Vayishlach of this week. They are in a way the difference between exile and the beginning, the beginning of exodus out of exile, meaning that the light of redemption and the light of the future, one can say, or the will of the Creator to bestow good to his creature begins to reveal itself, and it is quite clear from Vayishlach, meaning the way one is sending oneself into the work, through which one can say, through which means and ways it will be possible. So I would like to sort of point a few things that are related to the state of what is possible for us in work. Okay, so we'll actually see that the movement is from Vayetze, meaning one can say the plight or the flight of Jacob to exile. What we are not so much dealing with the forces that are at play that force him actually to leave Israel or to leave the state in which he could not, one can say, form himself. It's very much to do with what we call the hollow space. There need to be a state or a reality of choice, and the reality of choice is that you are out of the arena of, one can say, that everything is there for the taking, or there is a constant presence. So the whole creation starts with, one can say, hindering or hiding or concealing the presence of the Creator, up to the point that it allows, and one can say, a very fleeting memory of the presence of, or the will or the intention of creation and one's own existence. So actually Jacob going out, which is Vayetze, it's coming into a state of sleep. Therefore, revelation will occur through dream, meaning not to be fully aware, fully conscious of the presence, but through the media of dream, which is the possible connection through sleep. So being in exile, which is a description of the state of existence without connection to the Creator. If there is a need, the revelation will be through not a direct revelation. So one can see that the difference between Vayetze and Vayishlach, which is the coming back of Jacob back to Israel, meaning back to be with the fulfillment of his mission, which is to do with Vayishlach. Yeah. There is in the Hebrew there is the possibility of reading into it the purpose of the mission, which is called shlichut, So you can hear Vayishlach, Shlichut, you can see that it's inside it, and inside it there is, as well in Hebrew, two opposition, which is weakness, yeah, and dominion. So it's as well in the way that it is weak, chalash, yeah, and it is cholesh, which means in dominion. So it already suggests to us that coming back is to the place which is the branch of the world of Atzilut, is going to have, as the conditions are set in this portion, suggests to us that when we are starting to fulfill the mission of our spirit, and we relate ourselves to the template of the work, of the spiritual work, which Jacob is coining through, one can say, through the story, through the narrative of his coming back. So first, there will be always the fear, and there will be always a struggle. There will always be a walk through stages. It's going to take the time, which means to fulfill all the invitations that are possible for reforming oneself, and reforming a group of spirits that will constitute the template of reformation, or template of tikkun. So the first thing that we see, that in coming after forming himself as responsible for a family, after having the maturity of connecting with other vessels, yeah, of seeing that actually this mission has a joint purpose, one can say. One, how to actually create, one can say, almost a laboratory of preparing oneself to be able to connect to other wills, or one can say, or to the wills of the nation. So the first thing that we see is that if, when Jacob is going out to exile, the way he can be touched is through a dream. When he's coming back, he's actually seeing. The revelation is through a state of being awakened. Okay. So I would like to start with you. Okay. So after the covenant with Lavan, okay, let's see how there is different separation of verses and portions. So I have to sort of make some adjustment. Okay. So it starts in 32, yeah, which basically belongs to the portion before, but actually it explains this portion. So it's 32, yeah, and we're reading verse 1. And Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met him. Okay, that is when, in opposition, okay, to the way he's sort of starting his exile, and he's meeting, or one can say, something in a place is making a place in himself. What was feared by him as a hollow space becomes now an awareness of the importance of this hollow space, because it is a place of work. And then he lies down, which means this is katnut mochin. It means that he's entering the state of exile, which is sleep, and then there is a dream. And here, on the verge of entering Atzilut, we can see that he's meeting them. Okay, but it's the same word, which it does not appear in English. It's called Vayifgeu bo. Means when Jacob is starting his exit from the place of, one can say that everything is bestowed upon him without his effort or his place of self-determination. His mother, his father, the tent, meaning the whole atmosphere, the whole surrounding is actually, is, one can say, is sort of upon him. So when he's going out, he's meeting a place, meaning it's almost something, something is, there is Vayishga, there is an exertion of power. Okay? It's to meet something, but it's more to do with clashing than to meet. So when he's going out, he's clashing with, one can say, with the possibility of work. Because in exile, the state of exile actually can make in us, by clashing into our consciousness, can make in us a space of recognition of what is amiss. But when we are coming in, is the way that we actually demand, or we clash into, we make space for ourselves in the higher. You can say when we're in exile, the higher makes space in us. It's carving a space in us. When we are in work and we demand through work, through prayer, through the study, we make space for ourselves in the higher. So it's the same verb, vayifga, to clash in, but to clash is to, it has in it touch and space. To touch someone else in order to make a space for yourself in him. So exile is the higher make space in us. But coming back, which is Ratzov Vashov, coming back meaning conscious work of prayer or man, raising man, is making a space in the higher for our presence. We can make a space when we ask to be in an equivalence, or we ask for equanimity with the higher. Okay? So this is the first thing that we see, that Jacob went on his way, it's already his way. Yeah? And the way is actually paving space for humanity, for human spirit in the higher. Because the meaning of Atzilut is to be with the higher, to be with him under the same qualities and values of the higher. It's to take upon yourself, one can say, the condition and terms and qualities that allow you to be with someone, with the higher. Okay. But this is so this is first condition, or first expression of what actually Jacob is acquired through the time of exile. So we are going to witness a state of awakening. Okay. The first awakening, that he sees the angel, he's not dreaming. It's since in a dream, or one of the functions of a dream is actually to compensate for all those one can say soul heart issues that we were not able to deal with while awaking, while in awake state. So there is a sort of a mending process through sleep that happens through the dream. And now there is a sense of a self-definition of the work, which allows Jacob to be awake and to see the angel, and to see them as one can say parties, to see the difference between them, the different purposes and definitions of their missions. Okay. So we are going into 3, and Jacob sent, after he met them, what he could see through those 2 camps, one can say, of the angel. He could see that those 2 camps of, let's say, Michael and Gabriel, are working for the same purpose. So through seeing them, he discovers, one can say, the way he should deal with Esav, that he should make those 2 camps of Jacob and Esav, he should seek some way to bridge their opposition. And therefore he decided to go with the strategy of the appeal through presence, through sharing that, not what Jacob acquired through the blessing, but what Jacob acquired through work, through toil. This is what he would wish to share with Esav, letting him know that actually he already did the first strategy, which is to do with prayer. Through that, he would offer the presence, and then if it will not work, there is the possibility of war, of engaging in the language of power. Okay. So, and this is why, through meeting those angels, those camps of angels, he knows the condition of the work, which is how internality will work with externality, or how the right side will work with the left side through the middle, through a middle ground, meaning the middle ground will be the sameness of purpose. Yeah? Definition of the same purpose. Okay. So we'll go to Jacob prayer. Okay. What actually the two camps from really the beginning is that there is a difference between the purpose of creation and the reformation of creation, which we call tikkun. So in Jacob lies, one can say, the reformation and tikkun, and in Esav lies the purpose of creation, which is for all creatures. So seeing the two camps, one can now understand the strategy of prayer and sending presents with gaps. We will explain it later. And then the possibility of, one can say, there is always a subtle threat of knowing that there will be state of war, a state of trying actually to get rid, one can say, of the other side of the equation, which will always end up with repetition of a state that needs actually a third line, and a third line is peace. But you don't make peace with people who agrees with you. Okay. So let's look at Jacob's prayer. It's in we are in verse 9 of 32:9. And Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham. So he makes the reason of his action, the reason of his consciousness, the right side, and God of my father Isaac, which is the left side. So those two camps are joined in him. The Lord, which says unto me, return unto thy country and to thy kindred, and I will deal well with thee. I am not worthy of the least of all the mercies and of all the truth which thou hast showed unto thy servant. For with my staff I have passed over this Jordan, and now I've become two bands or two camps. Okay. So let's see. All the mercies means all the reformation powers, all the work that actually God has caused Jacob to go through in himself, the way he had to build himself as, one can say, as a father of a template of a nation with a specific mission. Okay. This is all the mercies. And the truth is how the way that we will come to the purpose of creation. And it has to start from below. So mercies are actually the bestowal of, one can say, of one's belief and the help that one's get when one is appreciating, is in consciousness of his exile from any contact or connection with the Creator. But what actually is happening in him is the growth of truth, which is knowing more and more the presence and the purpose of creation. So with this, he could, with those two powers, two camps in himself, he actually could see everything in him that needs reformation. Yeah, this is the stuff that can sort of influence the heart, to the work. Okay? He could actually cross all what causing him falling and coming up, falling and coming up. This is the Jordan. It's a river. It's the light. Yeah. It's the way we are able to use the light, whether we are in a state of feeling as falling from grace, or ascending to grace through this power, yeah, that was given to him. He could cross the Jordan, and now he could feel the two powers in himself. So he's asking to be delivered. Deliver me, I pray thee, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esav, for I fear him, lest he will come and smite me and the mother with the children. Yeah. Okay, so there is, this is the first strategy, meaning not using the blessing and the promise, but saying now that the work is at a very, very crucial, and one can say very, not only crucial, but it is crucial, but yet delicate. It's a very delicate moment, because the meeting with the Esav, the result of it, and everything that will precede it, meaning the struggle with the angel of Esav, and the meeting of Esav, and parting of Esav, will actually is the outline of history, of spiritual attainment of Israel, of Jacob that will become Israel. So we have in it not only the layout of the history in humanity, but the history of the journey in oneself, coming out of exile, waking up to the fact that we were born to serve the Creator. This is the only reason we exist or we live, whether we will choose to be partner of it, which means we are going to choose Jacob and Israel as a state in our work, or not. Or we go separate ways and we sit like a Esav, like a dome, and wait for Jacob to arrive to us. Yeah. So it's in every, it's a point in this portion of choosing. Okay. So I would like to continue and to show in the writing what was said. So there is the prayer, there is reviving, one can say, in oneself the promise, and to revive in oneself the promise that that God or the Creator has bestowed upon me. I have to make sure that I am in the same, that I am that which was the same that the promise was made to. Because a promise of the higher is to a certain state. It will never be fulfilled if I'm not matching the state to which the promise was given. I have to count, in order for the promise to be fulfilled, I need to be in the same state. Yeah. So it's we see how Jacob is coming to the same state of the promise. So first he revived the promise in himself, okay, and he's sending him all these camels and goats and and oxes, which all has to do with one can say states in the work, which is not important at the moment. What is important at the moment is to see that he always leaves a gap in between each group, and the gap is the most meaningful of all, because the gap is the place of work in between. In between the presence, there is always a gap of work, of reconnecting to or reconnecting to the prime intention of creation from the first state of the presence to the second state of the presence. There is always a gap of the prayer or the gap of the work. And that's the way, in a way, one can say that the form that Jacob is sending to Esav is demonstrating the work that needs to be done. Okay, and in it there is to implore Esav to receive it. It's not to receive only the gifts; it's to receive the way the gifts were earned. Okay. And this is where he's saying in verse 16, I think 16 or 17. 16. And he delivered them into the hands of his servants. Every drove by themselves. And he said unto his servants, pass over before me and put a space betwixt drove and drove, between group and group. Okay. So slowly we're building it. Okay. And then what you're saying to them, you will approach Esav as the master, one can say, as the master of reality. Yeah, my master, he's saying. I'm not going, it is your dominion at this time, because we know that the reality of this world is being dominated and controlled by the will to receive. So this is the approach of Jacob to Esav, to the will to receive to oneself, is as a master. How actually you one can say you negotiate. How you negotiate with someone that perceives himself as a master for eternity, and you let him know that he's temporarily a master. Okay, so this is as well to do with the internal dialogue in ourselves at work. But then he's doing whatever human can do. Okay, with the prayer, with as well the message that inside it there is, one can say, an implication of that he's actually afraid to kill and does not want, and as well fear of his life, both, but yet he has been spending time with Lavan. And through this time, he managed to preserve the root of his fathers and the work and the belief that actually was constituted by Abraham and Isaac. So if he's saying it's an undercurrent saying, if Esav is thinking that because Jacob spent so much time, 21 years with Lavan, he actually did not preserve the precept of belief. And therefore, there is the space of, one can say, rebel against Israel because Israel has not preserved its identity or its mission. He's saying to him that although he has been in exile with Lavan that had tried to trick him so many times, he preserved it. So it's not, Esav cannot act according to the prophecy that he can rebel and throw the yoke of Jacob, kasher tarid, because he kept Tariag, the 613 precepts, meaning he kept all his body, the spiritual body, clean and pure. Therefore, one cannot add the 14, 16 and 14, and what it means to add 14, to add one, to add oneself, the will to receive to oneself, to those precepts. So it's not the time, and there is no grace for Esav to rebel against the blessing. Okay. I know you'll ask something, but I want to move on. Okay, this is one. Then we are coming to something which is, one can say, a preparation to an awaken, though it's at night, but this time Jacob is not dreaming of angel, but is awake, struggling with the angel of Esav, which is called Samael. But let's see where from the power of Jacob is, where from it's stemming, where from it's growing. Okay. So, let's say we'll start at 22. We're still in 32, but at 22. And he rose up, Jacob, and he rose up that night and took his 2 wives and his 2 women servants and his 11 sons and passed over the ford of Yabok. Okay. Yeah. 23. And he took them and sent them over the brook and sent over that he had. Okay. So first we have to know that the letters in Hebrew Yabok are actually, one can say, a joint name or a joint sort of translation of 2 names that actually gathered into the word Yabok, which has to do with Havaya and Elohim. Or if I translate it, it will be the name of God with the name of Havaya. Okay. So what actually he's transforming, Zohar will say that he's transforming everything that is of God, of Elohim, meaning everything that is of the nature, of the law of nature, to Havaya. He's delivering everything in himself. This is the passage. Yeah, this is the meaning of the passage. He's passing everything that is of nature to Havaya. Okay, the principle which lies behind nature, or is the providence, one can say, of all the appearance of nature. So when he does this, one can now maybe understand the beginning of 24. Everything he had, and he sent over that he had, everything of the natural acquisition and what could be translated, perceived as Jacob effort. Even that part of himself, he's delivering to Havaya. And therefore, we can understand, and Jacob was left alone. Yeah. And then there is the struggle. So first, what it means that Jacob was left alone. One of the features of alone is, at least in our thinking or in our studies, is there is none else beside him, meaning he's alone, meaning only through the Creator, only through that power alone everything happens. So at the moment or through Jacob, is delivering everything to the power of Havaya, he becomes the only left alone power in the world through which actually we can perceive or attain that the Creator, there is nothing but the Creator. So at that moment, Jacob becomes the template, the paradigm of human spiritual reformation. This is why it is said that he was left alone. He only, we could see this alone repeating itself exactly before there is a struggle with coming into Israel, when actually in the portion of Balak, when Bilam is seeing the camp of Jacob or the camp of Israel, and he's saying a nation that is dwelling alone. Okay? This is the same alone that now it's establishing this aloneness, meaning this means of reformation, the only means of a reformation, to come to the perception and the feeling that there is none else but him. So it has to have the sameness of value. It means alone, it means dedicated only to. After he passed everything of God to Havaya, he stayed alone the only template, the only way to actually reform and achieve through that reformation the purpose of creation, meaning the joining of all spirits into the presence and the will of the Creator to bestow goodness. Therefore, it is quite clear why Jacob will, through the state, will have alone the power to struggle with Samael. Right? And not only that he would struggle, he could win over with the price. And the price is what Samael could find in Jacob of Semer, which is the tendon of the thigh, which is called, meaning that part which will be redeemed, reformed only at the end by the collective effort of all generation in the way of Jacob. Okay? So this I gave you quite sort of, I don't know how to call it what I gave you, but sort of around to just start to be with the importance of what we went through or what we are going through in Kislev till the moment we are able to actually transform. One can say transform and establish in ourselves Chanukah, yeah, meaning an actual station in a journey that first need to not to bring it to a conclusion, but to choose the work or the way of Jacob. Therefore, we are able to lit the candles, meaning to lit the spirits, but with light, one can say illuminating the candle. It's not the end. It's just shedding light on the way of completion. So it's Chanukah will become actually staying alone. Now, not in oneself, but as a group of Jacob becoming Israel, being able to fight. So our fight for reformation with the light that of Jacob's sight could actually bring a full reformation. Okay, so this is how we are starting to come closer to Chanukah and to the to a holy day that was created by the choice of human being, not deemed from above. Okay? So this is the moment that we can come to light in ourselves and the commitment to a spiritual way, which is called alone, which we committed ourselves to. Therefore, we can struggle to bring actually the end or the fulfillment of reformation. Okay? If we fulfill that, we can as well be called Israel. Okay. So, yeah, questions?